Ryan Donahue, a 44-year-old actor and musician, trying to control his angry flames, didn't notice how his rage was starting to cloud his mind. Every punch he threw was full of malice, and Anton was barely able to block them. "You just don't understand what you're doing," Ryan boiled, throwing another punch. "This is all for Asia. This is her happiness, and you ruined it." Anton, breathing heavily, parried the blows and focused more and more on his goal. His face was covered in bruises, but his eyes were burning with determination. "No, disgustful Donahue," he answered through clenched teeth. "You ruined her happiness with your manipulations and your selfishness. I'm here because I love her, and I will not let you take her away from me." Turning around, Ryan began to strike faster and faster, but Anton, seeing his opponent losing his composure, used it to his advantage. He noticed that Ryan was becoming less accurate and more vulnerable. Anton took several determined steps forward, catching the weak points in Ryan's defense. "It's time to end this," Ryan shouted, his voice full of panic and frustration. He tried to make the final blow, but Anton used the moment to push him back instead. Ryan lost his balance and, in a frenzy, suddenly turned around and started running. His motorcycle, which was parked nearby, was immediately turned on, and its roar echoed through the street. Ryan jumped on the bike and in a matter of seconds, the bike roared, carrying him into the darkness of the night. "Run, Ryan!" Anton shouted after him, his voice filled with anger and relief. "Run like a cowardly cur." Asia, who was standing nearby, watched the scene with a stunned face. Her eyes were full of tears and disappointment. She looked at Anton, her voice shaking with emotion. "Anton, you did it," she said, walking up to him. "But what now?" Anton, breathing heavily, looked at her. His body was exhausted, but his eyes still blazed with determination. "Now we can start all over again," he said, taking her hand. "I'm ready to fight for us, no matter what." Asia hugged him, and they, supporting each other, returned to the event, leaving behind a night filled with conflict and fear. Ryan, who had fled into the darkness, left behind only the echo of the screeching of the motorcycle and the disappointment in Asia's eyes. The evening, which began as a chance for Anton to make his dream come true, turned into an emotional and physical test. Asia, seeing how much and sincerely Anton loved her, decided that it was time to make a decision. They stood against the backdrop of the evening city, illuminated by lights, and Asia, taking a deep breath, looked at Anton. "Anton," she began, her voice full of emotion, "I want you to know that I admire your determination and sincerity. You have proven that you are willing to fight for what you love." She came closer and kissed him. The kiss was gentle but full of passion, and Anton felt his heart beat faster. "Here is my number," Asia said, handing him a card with a phone number. "Call me whenever you want. And I would like you to walk me to my mansion." Anton nodded, beaming with happiness, feeling his dreams starting to come true. "Of course, I will walk you," he replied, taking her hand. "You can count on me." They slowly walked to her car, which was parked in the parking lot. The walk to her house was full of light conversation and smiles. When they arrived at her mansion, Anton felt that this evening was one of the most significant in his life. "Thank you for everything, Asia," he said as they stood in front of her house. "I will always remember this evening." Asia smiled and kissed him on the cheek. "I will too. See you soon, Anton." When she entered the house, Anton could not contain his joy. He ran to his refuge, his thoughts were only about sharing his joy with his loved ones. Entering his small apartment, he immediately dialed Dmitry Vinogradov's number. The phone rang, and after a few rings, Dmitry answered. "Yes, Skovant, what do you have there?" a friend's voice was heard, full of curiosity. "Dmitry, you will not believe it," Anton began, not hiding his delight. "I met Asia Vieira, and she kissed me and gave me her phone number." There was a pause on the other end of the line, and then Dmitry burst out laughing. "Oh my God, did you really do that?" he laughed. "You're great. What about her boyfriend? Ryan ran away, Anton replied, laughing along with his friend. But it doesn't matter. I just walked her home, and now things can really start. It's great that things turned out this way. Don't forget to let me know how things go, Dmitri said, still laughing. But don't relax, you still have a lot of work to do to win her heart completely. Anton was in high spirits, and as soon as the conversation with Dmitri ended, he dialed his father, Andrei Anatolyevich. Hi, Dad, he said when Andrei Anatolyevich answered. I have great news. What do you have there, Anton? His father asked, his voice wary. I met Asia Vieira, and she. Anton began, but was interrupted by his father. Oh, that American beauty again, Andrei Anatolyevich muttered. I told you it was unreliable. Anton tried not to pay attention to this. Dad, don't interrupt. She gave me her phone number. We spent the evening together, and now I hope that everything will be fine. Well, since it turned out that way, his father said, less irritated. Well, since you are so persistent, maybe something will work out. But remember, it's not that simple. Anton was full of confidence. Thank you, Dad. I will try to do everything so that she sees that I can be a good partner. The conversation came to an end, and Anton, satisfied with the result, went to bed, full of anticipation of new events. Thoughts about the future, about what awaited him ahead, and how he would build his relationship with Asia, despite all the difficulties, flashed through his head. The next day Anton woke up in his small hostel room, feeling like his life had entered a new phase. The first thing he did was grab his phone to check if he was dreaming. And to his surprise, Asia's number was actually in his contacts. This seemingly trivial fact seemed like a real miracle to him. During the day, Anton couldn't wait to meet Asia again. He called her, and they agreed to meet in the park, where they had already spent the evening together. Anton's heart was pounding in anticipation. When Anton approached the park, he noticed that Asia was already waiting for him. She was wearing a light summer dress, her hair was fluttering in the wind, and her smile was as bright as that evening. She saw Anton and waved at him. Hello, Anton. Asia said, coming up to him. How are you today? Hello, Asia. Anton replied, smiling. I'm fine. Thank you for agreeing to meet. They started walking around the park, discussing various topics. Asia was open and interested in Anton's life, and he, in turn, tried to find out more about her. You have no idea how nice it was to hear you be so sincere, Asia said as they stopped by a small lake, where the water shimmered in the sunlight. I thought you were a little weird, but then I realized that you're just an unusual person, and I like that. Anton felt his face break into a smile. I love hearing that from you, Asia. I just wanted you to know that this is really important to me. I'm here because I care about you. As they continued walking, the conversation became more personal. Asia talked about her career, how difficult it was to be in the spotlight, and how she sometimes missed simple human relationships. There are days when I just want to get away from it all, she said, looking at Anton. There are times when I feel like I'm living in some kind of virtual world. I understand you, Anton replied, listening carefully. I think we all sometimes look for a place where we can be ourselves, where we can just relax and be sincere. Soon they came to a cozy cafe on the edge of the park. How about a cup of coffee? Asia suggested. I know a great place nearby. Sounds great, Anton agreed. In the cafe, they ordered coffee and sat at a small table by the window. The conversation continued, and Anton noticed that Asia had become even more open and relaxed. She talked about her childhood dreams, how she got into acting, and how important it was for her to find her place in this world. You know, Asia said, taking a sip of coffee, I thought that if I ever met someone who could understand me, it would be someone from my own community. But you've shown me that understanding and support can be found in the most unexpected places. Anton was touched by her words. I'm glad I could help you see that, he said. We're all looking for someone who will understand us, and sometimes it happens in the most unexpected ways. At that moment, Asia turned to him, and their eyes met. I'm glad I met you, Anton, she said softly. And I want to get to know you better. Maybe we could try to build something together. Anton was excited but tried to remain calm. I'd really like that, Asia. Let's try. They continued their conversation, and the evening slowly turned into night. The park became even more cozy, and the lights of the cafe reflected in the water of the lake. This evening was the beginning of something new for both of them, and Anton, feeling a new bright spot appear in his life, was ready to explore all the possibilities that it brings. The next day, Anton and Asia met in a cozy cafe located in the city center. They liked this place and they decided to make it their little tradition. Today, Asia looked especially lively and joyful, her eyes shining with anticipation. Anton, I want to tell you something special, Asia began when they sat down at a table by the window, from where there was a view of the busy street. Anton looked at her carefully, feeling that this conversation would be important. Of course, tell me, he said, pouring himself a cup of coffee. Asia leaned back in her chair, and began to tell with inspiration. You know, I was in a movie when I was only 8 years old. It was Omen IV: The Awakening. Maybe you've heard of it. Anton winced when she said it. After all, she had mentioned the movie that had brought him to her. Yes, I watched it just recently, Anton admitted, his eyes lighting up. It wasn't just a movie for me, it was the beginning of something important in my life. I never thought that thanks to it, one day I would be sitting here with you. How sweet! Asia exclaimed and smiled. So she continued, you must know that I played the lead role in it. It was incredible. I was given a chance to be a part of such a significant project despite my age. Anton listened with interest, imagining little Asia starring in such a famous movie. How did you manage to get this role? It's not that easy for a child. Asia smiled, her eyes filled with memories. It was a coincidence. My parents brought me to the casting just out of curiosity. I didn't think I had a chance. But when I showed up, the atmosphere at the casting was so warm and supportive. I read my part, and they saw something they liked. In the end, I was offered the role. Anton looked at her in admiration. That's impressive. And what was it like to work at such a young age? Asia thought for a moment. It was scary at first. I was a little girl surrounded by adult actors and a professional crew. But they were very kind to me and supportive. I quickly got used to filming and started enjoying the process. Anton noticed how Asia perked up when she talked about the experience. It was clear this film had become an important part of her life. What was the hardest part of filming? He asked, interested in the details. Asia frowned slightly, remembering. The hardest part was probably juggling filming with my normal life. I had to study, hang out with friends, and still be on camera. But I was lucky to have the support of my parents and crew. She paused and added. But despite the challenges, it was an incredible adventure. This film opened up the world of acting for me, and led to more roles. And honestly, I will always be grateful for this experience. Anton sensed how deeply Asia was reliving her memories. It's amazing. I think the experiences you had at that age really made you the person you are today. Asia nodded with a smile. Yes, and that's why I love sharing these stories. They remind me of how far I've come, and how much I've accomplished. Anton looked at her with admiration and respect. I love hearing your stories. They make you even more interesting and inspiring. Thank you for sharing them with me. Asia smiled, and her smile was full of warmth and gratitude.